To answer your questions this morning for the 4 hours we have together on our program, certified culinary nutritionist is with us. And let me introduce you to her. Trudy Stone is in Toronto. I'm looking forward to these 4 hours with you, Trudy. Thanks for coming in and accepting our invitation.
Thanks for having me, Heather.
We have already a ton of questions. I'm interested, though, what is the #1 question that you're getting about food right now?
What can I do with my beans?
And chickpeas and lentils and okay, so why don't we start there? What's your answer? What do you do with those things that you've had in the pantry forever?
The question is, Heather, what can't you do with those things? There are so many dishes that you can make with beans, lentils, and chickpeas. So I'm really excited that people are going to be embracing more of the plant-based foods. So let's start with beans, for example. Of course, you can put them in soups, you can put them in stews. You can also do, let's say, like a stuffed baked potato. So you can either take a sweet potato or a regular potato, get your black beans, put them right in there, and then maybe add some things like salsa or your favorite vegetables. With lentils, you can actually make desserts with lentils as well. So they're not just for soups and stews. You can use them as a substitute for butter in your desserts. And I actually have an amazing recipe on my website for that.
Well, we're going to do a link to that. I'll make sure that people can do that, and we'll put it up on our Twitter account. So you have recipes up in your website where we can go and find all these things to work with.
Just search beans or lentils and you'll see all sorts of amazing things come up.
Well, you know what? It's an interesting reminder because sometimes we let our pantries kind of empty out. We don't pay attention to what we keep on hand, and it's a real reminder that you have a lot in there that can be helpful. I'm wondering, not just the pantry food, but I'm thinking about people going out to grocery shop this weekend who are putting their lists together.
Right.
What about fresh food? What's your best advice?
Yeah, so with produce, there's so many different things you can do. So if properly stored, vegetables can actually last up to a year in your freezer. So let's say you went out there, you bought a whole bunch of produce, and now you find yourself stuck with this produce that is kind of at the end of its shelf life. You might want to go ahead and consider freezing some of those vegetables.
I don't think I've ever tried that, Trudy. You can freeze vegetables like what? You can freeze any of them?
Absolutely. You can freeze pretty much all of them. The only ones that don't freeze so well are the ones that have a high water content, so things like celery and zucchini, because when they defrost, they tend to get a little bit soggy because they have the high water content. But other than that, than those types of vegetables, pretty much everything else can be frozen.
So even though we're supposed to shop fewer times, you can still get fresh, you can eat what's at hand, and then you can freeze them. That's really important. So we should go ahead and buy our normal fresh food order if we're able to. In terms of bringing those fresh foods home, let's have our first of what I think will be several conversations about food safety. What do you do when you bring them into the house? We're getting a lot of questions about, can the virus be on the food surfaces? So what is your advice for keeping everybody safe?
Well, a few things. We want to keep those plastic bags off of our kitchen counters as much as we possibly can, and maybe just have them on the floor as we're taking them out. I know it might be a little bit awkward to be bending and taking them out, but then there's less surface area in your kitchen to clean if you do that. So once you take them out of your plastic bags from the grocery store, you immediately want to discard those bags. And then just wipe down any surfaces in your home. If, let's say, for example, your kitchen countertop, that's come in contact with those bags. Next, what you want to do is, if you have like fresh produce, for example, you don't need to buy an expensive produce wash to wash them. All you need is just some water and some vinegar. So if you take like 1 cup of vinegar, maybe about 4 cups of water, you have an amazing produce wash that you can use to wash your fruits and vegetables.
So we know that we don't always do that thoroughly enough when we wash our fruits and vegetables. This is a real reminder that we need to do that carefully. Is it the same kind of, I mean, we're being told to wash for 20 seconds for our hands. Would you do that for your fruits and vegetables as well?
I would, absolutely.
20 seconds in the water and vinegar mix to wash those. You know, I heard somebody else talking about, you mentioned putting the bags on the floor. Somebody else's suggestion I saw was, if you don't want to use the floor, you know, you could have part of your counter set off as the, you know, the bag area, and then part for where you only put your clean food. So, you know, you just are aware that you transfer them from one area to the other. But the important thing is you differentiate between the two.
Absolutely. I love that suggestion. That's great. Yeah, the extra countertop, why not?
Exactly. Angie's question is similar to this. She wrote in, Trudy, and was talking about when you get your food delivered, because we know more and more people are turning to these food delivery services. She wondered if that's what she should do as well. Would you advise not just food that you're buying yourself at the grocery store, but also food that's coming in from any sort of delivery to do that same sort of approach?
Absolutely. So I've ordered a few things myself as well because I've kind of gotten a little bit lazy. So yeah, so I immediately take everything out of, like, let's say if it comes in like a brown bag, I would immediately take it out of the brown bag and then just discard that bag right away, making sure that I'm washing my hands. So anything that comes in contact with the outside, we want to make sure that after we've touched it, we're immediately washing our hands.
You know, since we last spoke, most of the questions coming in have been about food safety. So let's just jump in with Lori Frank's question. Concerned about eating food made by others, prepared for takeout. So takeout and delivery is, of course, still allowed. And a lot of, Uber Eats, et cetera, delivering food from various restaurants. Is it safe to eat, Trudy?
From what we know, yes, it is safe to eat. I know there are some restaurants who are actually just delivering food to your porch. There's actually some pizza companies that are doing that as well. So they'll just leave it on the porch, ring your doorbell, and then you just go out outside on your porch, and then you get your takeout food. So certainly, I love that a lot of companies are doing that because that's making people feel a lot more comfortable about ordering takeout. But when you bring it into the house, you want to treat it the same way that you would treat any of your produce items or any of your groceries that are coming into the house. And you immediately want to discard that outer packaging. And then you also want to make sure you're washing your hands immediately after touching that packaging before you sit down to eat.
Can we just talk a little bit about what else you want to do for your fresh food, your fresh fruit and your fresh vegetables, your produce? Because we were talking about that last hour, and we just want to clarify. You were mentioning water and vinegar, and there was a particular reason you mentioned the vinegar.
Yes, that's right. And that was to disinfect the produce and to remove, but the vinegar really removes a lot of bacteria, but we don't know for certain that it does remove the viruses. There are some experts that are saying that just using just plain water is fine. So we can, try doing that as well.
Well, let's bring up, in fact, what the Government of Canada website says to that point, because yes, they do mention that washing fresh fruit and vegetables with water before use, using a vegetable brush. That's an interesting tip, Trudy, on produce that has a firm skin. So carrots and melons, potatoes, things like that. Do not use soap. That's an important thing. I didn't realize that. Do not use soap to wash your produce, and wash the produce under running water. Don't soak it in the sink, and that's because of the bacteria that you've referenced. So that seems like that's the official government advice for us right now.
Yeah, and that's great advice. I love that.
I have a question about meat. It seems that there are people, again, really stocking up on meat, and I'm not sure why that is, but what are the safety guidelines for meat?
Yeah, well, meat can actually stay in your freezer for quite a long time, up to anywhere maybe about 9 months in your freezer. But we also want to make sure that, let's say if you're taking it out of the freezer and you're thawing it, that you're thawing it in the right way. So we want to make sure that we're not thawing our meat on the countertop, and that instead we're thawing it in the fridge. So if you're thawing meat in the fridge, it can last anywhere from 1 to 2 days in the fridge.
Excellent. And then freezing it, you can freeze it, right? Yes, obviously.
You can freeze it anywhere from 9 to about 12 months.
12 months, that's fantastic. So you can bulk buy at this time when they want us to shop, maybe once a week, maybe even buy enough for 2 weeks. You can do that and then freeze your meat for up to 12 months. Question from Amanda Zwicker, and this is a good one, and I think it'll clarify. I think there's a pretty definitive answer to this. Is it safe for people to bring their own shopping bags into the grocery store, or would it be safer and easier if they brought back the plastic bags? I'm pretty sure that you're not allowed to bring in your reusable bags to grocery stores anymore, Trudy, right?
Yeah, and just to be on the safe side, I'm just using plastic bags now, just so that I'm not, exposing myself to any sort of contamination.
Okay, that's what I've been doing too, and it might not be everyone's choice, but at this time, and I think that's the case. Just before I let you go, C. George, he has a tip for us: healthy snacks, Trudy, Scottish oat cakes. Healthy oatmeal, preservatives, no palm oil, nothing bad, and you can add dried herbs to make them savory. I will tell you, when I lived in Halifax, Trudy, I made mine with peanut butter. Well, I didn't ever, that's a lie. I did not make them. I ate them when they had peanut butter in them. So that makes it even good in the protein. So there you go. There's a tip for us from C. George. Thank you. Scottish oat cakes.
I'm going to need that recipe.
Okay, we'll find one for you. Let's just pick up the food safety questions continue to come in, Trudy. So the question this time, similar to a previous conversation, but bearing repeating this hour: Are foods that we eat raw, so fresh produce, fruit, vegetables, are they safe?
Yes, they are absolutely safe, but we just want to make sure that we're washing them really, really well. I know earlier in the program we talked about the direction from Canada, from the government, and they certainly just recommended using water to wash that produce, and then also maybe just using a brush to scrub things like your potatoes, and just making sure you're really getting the, a good clean scrubbing on those fruits and vegetables.
I thought it was interesting they don't even recommending using soap and water. They say that's not
Yeah.
the way to go.
Right, right. Yeah, some people are using vinegar and water, and you can certainly, try using that as well. But hey, if water works, let's keep it simple.
Obviously, food safety very much on people's minds, but here's some other questions. This is a question from Patrick. What are good, nutritious meals you can make in bulk? Now, that's good for families and for everyone, but Patrick goes further to deliver to seniors, for example, those who are vulnerable. You may be concerned about and wanting to make sure that they are eating well. So what are some suggestions for good, nutritious meals, and how long could they store them for?
Yeah, I would certainly say soups and stews are probably the easiest thing because it's a great meal that you can just throw everything in one pot. If you have a slow cooker or something like an Instant Pot or a pressure cooker, even better. And the great thing about these one pot meals is that because you're able to add so many different ingredients, you're getting a variety of different nutrients that your body really needs to defend itself as well.
I think that's a really good point. The recipes that I'm seeing out there being shared, a lot of them on slow cooker or one pot, that kind of things, Instant Pot, people using that in bulk and that they can keep. Let's also think about, people at home now all together, the family meals back, children involved in the kitchen, involved in food preparation and making some of those meals. It's kind of a bit of an opportunity. What would you say to this question? Is it a good time to get your kids or even teens into cooking and baking? And what should you be teaching them about eating properly?
Heather, I would say there has never been a better time to get your kids involved in the kitchen because they're there. They're always around. So put them to work, get them involved. It's a great way to start to ingrain those healthy habits in our kids earlier on in life as well. So certainly just get them involved in the cooking process. Maybe if you don't want to have the little ones chopping things, maybe they can just, throw something into a pot, or maybe they can stir something in a bowl, but just get them active and get them involved.
So what would be, apart from the chopping and the prep, what kinds of things recipe-wise would it be good is by way of introduction so that they fall in love with making their own food and develop an interest in it?
Yeah, I would say tacos. I mean, every kid pretty much loves tacos. So that's a really great place to start. And, you can put meat in your tacos if you want. You can do ground beef. You can do fish tacos. You can also do cauliflower tacos as well, which, I make and I have that recipe up on my website. But just, trying different ways so that you're not eating the same thing all the time. And then also things that are fun to eat as well. Because with the tacos, you can, add different toppings as well. So maybe you want to have some cilantro and sprinkle that on top, or some cabbage and sprinkle that on top, or shredded carrots. So again, it just makes it really fun and makes it really colorful as well.
So a question specifically not just for kids, but also, we're talking a lot, Trudy, about the millions of Canadians whose finances have been affected by this, and people who've lost their jobs suddenly very concerned about stretching their food dollar and concerns about making, putting nutritional food on the table for their families. Some suggestions for easy nutritional meals that won't cost the earth.
Yeah, I would say, turning to things like beans and lentils, which I know a lot of us are buying right now. And if you can't find it canned, you can also buy them dried as well. And your dollar will go farther if you buy them dried. Yes, there is a little bit more prep involved because you would need to soak them beforehand. But, certainly your grocery dollar bills are going to go farther if you buy the dried versus buying, multiple cans of canned goods.